In order to break through the defense of the 79th Tavrian Assault Brigade in the area of the village of Kostiantynivka in Donetsk region, the occupiers threw 11 armored fighting vehicles with infantry, supported by 8 tanks, into battle. Javelin in the area of Selidovo liquidates the Russian tank T-72B3M. How resistant do you think Russian tanks are to incoming attacks? Is it normal for them to explode with every missile or drone attack? Write in the comments. An attempt by the Russians to break through from Mariinka was stopped by FPV drones of the 33rd OMBR destroyed. 2 IFV, 2 tanks and infantry. Do you think medieval wars were more brutal, or modern wars are more brutal and horrible? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Another rare Russian reconnaissance UAV Merlin was shot down. A Russian vehicle was destroyed by a Ukrainian FPV drone. Ukrainian soldiers from the 77th Separate Aircraft Brigade destroyed Russian armored vehicles. Last week, SBU soldiers were destroyed. 10 tanks, 33 BBM, 18 artillery systems, 4 air defense systems, and an EW, 219 vehicles, 25 UAVs, and 22 antennas, 148 fortifications, 2 warehouses with ammunition, 176 Russian soldiers. That's how the Russians raked out the soldiers of the 57th Motorized Infantry Brigade and your drones in Volchansk. Strikes on armored vehicles, including hidden ones, and also with meat dynamic protection. The T-90M Russian tank could not get out of its hole and became an easy target for the drone. It was completely destroyed. During recent assault operations, the Russians used a lightly armored communication vehicle that also served as a repeater as it was thought, our scouts found, and FPV-Shniki destroyed the field communication point. Two Russian soldiers got inside the damaged BMP to hide from the FPV drone, but they did not know that it is impossible to escape from the FPV drone. And finally, it happened. Soldiers from the 30th Separate Mechanized Brigade managed to destroy a Russian tank for the first time, using a Dragon drone spewing a burning thermite mixture 65 kilometers north of Pokrovsk. The Russians ran into the surviving part of the building. They thought they would hide there from our pilots. One kamikaze drone with a high explosive charge won a game of hide-and-seek. After the Russians successfully struck the planes once in the Dnipro region, they attempted it again. The Orlan with the latest arrived, filmed a pompous video of them hitting the Su-25 and started circulating it everywhere, but people online discovered it was a mock-up. Firstly, it's about the cockpit and its strange color and shape. Secondly, in the footage, you can see that the wings overlap the air intakes, although on a normal Su-25, the wing merges into the air intake. These loaves have EW systems within them. However, as the video demonstrates, Ukrainian FPV drones still successfully target many of these vehicles, since Ukraine can convert to non-standard frequencies and accurately hit targets. The video is reportedly the fifth burnt loaf of bread that Ukraine successfully targeted in the area. Destruction of Russian BM-21 Grad in the Zaporizhzhia region. Russian tank BMP-3 blew up in a big way. Do you think the crew is alive? The Russian convoy was spotted by Ukrainian FPV drones and immediately attacked. Russian tanks were blown up one by one. Some lucky soldiers managed to escape at the last moment. They prayed to God at breakfast. The Russian 203mm self-propelled gun Pion and its TZM were successfully deployed as a result of the defeat of 30 DPICM cluster missiles from the Rs 3 billion HIMARS. The Ukrainian military using a BM-21 Grad to engulf a Russian position in Donetsk. The bridge over the same river near the village of Glushkova was destroyed by air forces on. Heavy unmanned aerial vehicle Vampire of border guards of the Kramatorsk detachment brought warmth to the occupiers in the Vovchan direction at night. Another turtle tank, this time called Native, was destroyed in the direction of Urozhain. Detonation of the ammunition of a Russian Grad after being hit by an artillery strike in the Pokrovsk direction. The Ministry of Defense published a video of a direct artillery hit on a tank. Probably the entire crew lost their lives. Destruction of a Russian tank and other wonderful Rusoras performed by soldiers 118 Obertro. Do you think FPV drones have changed the course of modern warfare? Write your thoughts in the comments. Most expensive target in the history of FPV application has been destroyed. Warriors of the Wings to Hell unit of the 103rd Territorial Defense Brigade in the Kupiansky direction set fire to and destroyed a Russian Tor anti-aircraft missile system using several of your drones. The cost of this is from $24 million and more. That's over 900 million hryvnias. This is at least 4 times or more than we have collected for almost 14,000 FPVs in total. 72nd Mechanized Brigade of AFU showed footage by its strike UAV operators working near Vuhledar. If you like our videos and the sound effects we add to them, please don't forget to like the video and leave a comment. The 79th Airborne Assault Brigade detected and destroyed the Russian Tor air defense system in Olenivka, near Donetsk. One Russian BMP was completely destroyed, as always, with only one FPV drone. It is possible to destroy these vehicles, which cost thousands or even millions of dollars, with cheap drones. I understand better and better every day how effective weapons FPV drones are. I think they are the most powerful, fastest, and cheapest combat tool of modern warfare in land warfare. What do you think? Write your thoughts in the comments. Vehicles exploded, safe havens exploded, soldiers taking a break are attacked, a vehicle hiding in a bush is blown up, road mines were detonated, mission accomplished. 4 Russian tanks and vehicles worth millions of dollars were destroyed with only a few $100s worth of FPV drones. FPV drones have become almost the most powerful, fastest, and most effective weapons in modern land warfare. Fast, powerful, and almost unstoppable. What do you think? Russian vehicles and tanks continue to explode. It is almost impossible to escape Ukrainian FPV drones. How many people can do it? The liquidation of Russian BMP and an armored personnel carrier on the Zaporizhzhia front. What do you think about the place of FPV drones in modern warfare? In the Pokrovsky direction, soldiers of the 68th Separate Jaeger Brigade destroy a Russian armored personnel carrier with the help of your drones. An FPV drone hit an enemy train that was detected by aerial reconnaissance, Kharkiv region. "13 Russians hid in the building. Our kamikaze drone knocked them out of hiding and forced them to run to the basement. We sent another landmine, which made the Russian soldiers run away. They ran in different directions. Thus, all the invaders received at least 2 concussions and injuries." Drones continue to fly day and night. They are always ready to attack their enemies. On the Eastern Front, Ukrainian FPV drones repelled Russian mechanized attacks and blew up numerous vehicles and equipment. Dozens of tanks and vehicles are blown up every day as the Russian-Ukrainian war continues at its fiercest. Russia pays millions of dollars every day for these losses. Ukrainian forces, using FPV drones and artillery, are repelling a massive Russian assault near the village of Plekova in the Kursk region. Almost all vehicles and crew of the Russian convoy are destroyed. These expensive Russian vehicles were destroyed by seemingly simple but very effective FPV drones. Of course, Ukraine does not only carry out drone attacks, but FPV drones are a low-cost, very fast, and very effective weapon. It is almost impossible for soldiers to escape by running or hiding. Defense of Ugledar, the last days. Soldiers of the 3rd Mechanized Battalion of the 72nd Brigade in a duel of armored vehicles caught the Russian BMP-2. The Black Cossacks fought and continue to fight in extremely difficult conditions, demonstrating real heroism. It should be remembered that the heroism of a soldier is often a consequence of mistakes and irresponsibility at the highest level. The armed forces of Ukraine attacked the Russian marine oil terminal in Feodosia, occupied Crimea, General Staff. The Feodosia terminal is used in particular for the needs of the Russian army. (110th Separate Mechanized Brigade, Pokrovsky direction. 2 T-72 tanks of the occupiers wanted to get into position, but we see everything and neutralize it. In occupied Feodosia, drones hit not an ordinary oil depot, but an important transshipment hub for Russians. An oil port that can receive tankers with oil products all year round, store them and supply them to the entire occupied Crimea. In the event of serious damage, the logistics of oil products in the occupied Crimea will be shifted to railways and highways, which will greatly complicate it. One long-range Lancet soldiers of the Central Security Service of Ukraine within the framework of the Heavenly Russo-Riz program shot down a kamikaze drone Izdalia 51, which was flying to attack our people. An airstrike by Ukrainian Air Force with GBU-39 bombs on a platoon base in the Kursk region. The command post of the Air Force Base, EW unit, equipment, weapons, and up to 40 servicemen of the Russian Federation were hit. M142, HIMARS hits Russian 39H6, Kosta 2E2 radar station in Donetsk region. These night flashes were created with the help of Russian BM-21 Grad, a tank and an infantry fighting vehicle, which were blown up by fighters of the 68th Separate Hunter Brigade. The Russians are training to evade FPV. Fighters of the 46th Brigade demonstrate the repulsion of another assault between NP Pobjeda and Georgievka. Deep State. The assault consisted of 2 columns, with 5 and 3 units of equipment. which were met by the Ukrainian military with the help of ATGMs and FPV drones. The enemy are actively trying to attack Georgievka, but they have little success. FPV drone pilots are working great as always. Would you like to be a FPV drone pilot, or have you ever used a drone in your life? It is difficult to use drones, but it is much more difficult to use FPV drones. It requires a lot of talent, attention, skill, and steady work. Especially if you are a military drone pilot, you can even change the course of the war. A tank of the 3rd Armored Brigade fires from 2 kilometers away with high explosive fragmentation projectiles at enemy positions in Orlivka. It was easy to blow up the Russian tank, which alone in the middle of the field made it an easy target. Do you think the crew of the tank is alive? Ukrainian kamikaze drones hit Russian Bak M3 and Bak M1 air defense systems in the eastern direction. During recent assault operations, the Russians used a lightly armored communication vehicle that also served as a repeater as it was thought, our scouts found, and FPV destroyed the field communication point. Soldiers from the 30th Separate Mechanized Brigade managed to destroy a Russian tank for the first time, using a Dragon drone spewing a burning thermite mixture 65 kilometers north of Pokrovsk. Ukrainian tankers from the 59th Motorized Brigade shooting directly at Russian positions near Sukharine. The Ivan 2M armored car failed to protect Russian soldiers. How safe do you think it is to travel on a tank like this? What's the alternative? A Russian vehicle carrying Russian infantrymen is unexpectedly attacked by a first FPV drone, but survives. After some distance, some of the infantry jump out of the vehicle to hide. Continuing on the road, the Russian vehicle was destroyed after being attacked by the 2nd and 3rd FPV drone, and the crew lost their lives. The bridge over the same river near the village of Glushkova was destroyed by air forces on. The T-90M Russian tank could not get out of its hole and became an easy target for the drone. It was completely destroyed. Russian tanks and Russian vehicles, which became easy in open terrain, were destroyed one by Ukrainian FPV drone pilots. Subscribe and like the video for this and similar videos. The German Iris-T air defense complex destroyed by Russia near the border of the Kursk region was a dummy build. The Russians published the strike of the Iskander-M missile complex on the Iris-T near the village of Sina in the Sumy region of Ukraine, 11 kilometers from the border with the Kursk region. Build expert on open data analysis, Julian Ropka, considers the air defense complex very similar to a dummy. Spectacular footage of the defeat of the Russian BTR-82A by a strike from the Javelin ATGM in the Donetsk region. Destruction of an enemy pontoon crossing by operators of the 412th Separate Battalion of Unmanned Systems, Nemesis, in Luhansk region. A Ukrainian MiG-29 pilot strikes a Russian communications command post in Kriniki with an AASM hammer bomb. During the battle, the BMP-3 crew of the Russian army mistakenly shot their own BMP-2 at close range in the village of Ruska Konopelka, Kursk Oblast, Russia. Rusores are ready to fight. Russians are storming our positions every day. The company of the 79th Air Assault Brigade of the Perun Group, together with other comrades, is giving a worthy rebuff to the invaders. Buk M. 2 air defense system destroyed. Soldiers of the 77th Separate Airmobile Brigade burned the target. First, the long drone was hit by an air defense system. Then it was finished off with a thick FPV. This BMD-2 went to prevent the Cossacks from liberating the Kursk region. Boys in forgot to close the door and caught the drone in the face. The attack on the Russian vehicle one afternoon. The drone hit the vehicle right in the engine and it was completely destroyed. There is no information about the crew yet. A high explosive projectile hits an enemy BMD. Another great video from FPV Strike Drone Company. Plus 1 burned equipment to loss statistics. Soldiers of the 47th Mechanized Brigade continue to hunt for the enemy. On October 5th, the Defense Forces shot down a Russian Su-25 in the Donetsk region. The downed 41 scouts are the result of only one division of Erebus Group 82 OJB. Some defeats were published earlier. A kamikaze drone strikes a Russian 96 L6 CP radar of the S-400 Triumph system in the Belgorod region. Another headache for the Zs. Bradley takes on a Russian T-80 tank. Fighters of the 47th Separate Mechanized Brigade destroyed enemy equipment using a Tau anti-tank missile. Credit to the Discovery crew of the 2nd Mechanized Battalion, 47th Separate Mechanized Brigade. Epic detonation of Russian self-propelled gun ammunition due to an FPV drone strike. SBUs work with FPV drones. Among the destroyed vehicles, there was a rare specimen, the Terminator. How long do you think Russian tanks can withstand Ukrainian FPV drones? Do you think Russian tanks are doomed? Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments, and be sure to like the video. The Ukrainian Navy reported the destruction of a Russian ammunition and fuel and lubricants depot on the Kinburn Spit in the Black Sea. Powerful footage of the shooting of a column of Russian armored vehicles by a Ukrainian tank of the 58th Separate Motorized Infantry Brigade, named after Hetman Ivan Vyhovsky, near Staromlynivka in the Berdyansk direction. We know this very well. It is almost impossible for tanks to escape from FPV drones. So if a Russian tank and a Ukrainian tank face each other, which tank can defeat the other? Which tank is stronger than the other? It is not enough for the occupiers to deliver ammunition to the positions, because even when they succeed, our soldiers destroy their warehouses. 128 OGS HBR works in the Zaporizhzhia direction. Pilots of FPV drones of a separate squad, Wings of Omega, destroyed the enemy's T-72 tank. Do you think Putin can develop a new technology to protect his tanks? How can Russia protect its tanks from FPV drones? Write your thoughts about the video. The tank turret toss world record is being disputed. We have kindly been informed of this competition entry from April 2023 by the 116th Brigade of the TRO. The judges are currently evaluating the various. The turret can be seen landing after a 8-second flight. Using S equals UT plus 1/2 AT squared, this could have reached a height of 78.5 meters, which would exceed the 76 meters of the previous entry. The Russian mechanized assault on the Kharkiv direction was crushed. The 79th Air Assault Brigade destroyed 2 tanks and 6 armored vehicles with infantry, and another enemy tank was damaged. I'm happy to say that this AGS-17 grenade launcher is now safe for our infantry. Ukrainian aviation is striking Russian forces in the Kursk region with precision-guided JDAM bombs, targeting buildings housing Russian personnel. The occupiers published a video of how they hit the Kharkov region with Grad directly from the road in the Belgorod region. HIMARS strikes on Russian BM-27 Uragan MLRS, BM-21 Grad MLRS, and Torn MDM electronic warfare systems on the left bank of the Kherson region, directed by the Shark UAV. Ukrainian FPV drones attack Russian vehicles after a long pursuit. Nine Russian drone operators were killed by a drone strike in Okaratyne-Pokrovsk sector. Do you think the Russian soldiers made it out of that building alive? This morning, the Russians tried to break through the positions of the 15th Karadag Brigade south of Selidovo. All the equipment was destroyed. The infantry was eliminated. There is replenishment of the exchange fund. If any of the Russian tanks and any of the Ukrainian tanks face to face, which tank would win? To support our channel, you can click the join button or send a super donation. Destruction of a Russian tank and other wonderful Rusoras performed by soldiers 118 Obertro. Do you think FPV drones have changed the course of modern warfare? Write your thoughts in the comments. The Ukrainian military using a BM-21 Grad to engulf a Russian position in Donetsk. Paratroopers from the 79th Air Assault Brigade repelled a massive Russian attack on the Kharkiv direction, destroying 7 armored vehicles and 1 tank. 33 Russians were eliminated while the remaining forces retreated. 44th Separate Artillery Brigade destroyed 2 enemy self-propelled artillery units, 257 Pion, multiple rocket launcher system BM-21 Grad, and self-propelled artillery unit 2S-19 MSTS. Adjustments were made using UAV Shark. Another defeat of a Russian helicopter using a FPV drone. Soldiers of the M2 unit of the Special Operations Center of the SBU, working in the Kursk region of Russia, were able to hit another Russian helicopter with a FPV drone. This time, the Mi-8 was hit in the tail by a drone with a powerful fragmentation warhead. The further fate of the Mi-8 is unknown, but it stopped operating in the area. FPV drones have destroyed the Russian tank T-90M Breakthrough. The crew of the Samosud unit of the UAV Shark 11, brigade of the NGU on the left bank of Kherson region engaged the tank when it was trying to attack our soldiers. The soldiers of the 406th Artillery Brigade detected the vehicle using the Shark complex. Defense forces in the south neutralized the Russian 9K317 Buk M3 air defense system. For this moped rider in the Kursk region, this trip was the last. Your drone was effectively used by soldiers of the 3rd DSHB of the 80th Galician Brigade. Russian forces arrived in an armored vehicle to retrieve a stuck BTR, but Ukrainian FPV operators hit them with a drone. First, the armored vehicle caught fire, then the blaze spread to the BTR, leading to an explosion. Everything burned down. Attack using AASM-250 Hammer aerial bombs on positions with Russian soldiers in the Kharkiv region. There was an FPV drone attack on this Russian vehicle. However, it received minor damage. A second FPV drone attack was made on the vehicle that tried to escape by turning back, and the vehicle was neutralized. Rayrog Battalion of the 24th Separate Mechanized Brigade destroyed the Russian T-80 BVM tank with your thick drones. How resistant do you think Russian tanks are against FPV drones? How do you think tanks can develop a defense mechanism against drones? Ukrainian FPV drones continue to attack Russian vehicles unabated. Who do you think will be the winner of this war? More importantly, when do you think this war will end? One armored personnel carrier and one infantry fighting vehicle were destroyed. Another infantry fighting vehicle was hit. A Chinese golf car and tank were burned, and infantry was packed. In this short video, I want to show how Ukrainian soldiers spend their day, what they do, and how they carry out their operations. Could you join the war? Were medieval wars harder or modern wars harder? Write your thoughts in the comments. 10 enemy armored vehicles came under barrage fire from the soldiers of the 63rd and 60th Separate Mechanized Brigades. 5 tanks and 5 BMPs, sent on a suicidal assault on Ukrainian positions, were destroyed, damaged by artillery fire, and finished off by drones. Limansk direction of the front. HIMARS strike on the 9T452 loading machine for the BM-27 Hurricane. M142. HIMARS destroys the Russian SuperCam UAV calculation. In the Kursk region, Ukrainian drones are burning Russian ammunition, supplies, and various military equipment in forested areas. This fire-breathing drone is used to destroy anything hidden in the woods. What do you think about the direction drones are taking the war in general? A BTR-82, a tank, was completely destroyed after several drone strikes. A video of the successful destruction of the command post of a motorized rifle regiment in the Belgorod region has surfaced. Judging by the available footage, the control point was completely destroyed. The detonation of a Russian tank's ammunition supply as a result of an FPV drone strike in the Donetsk region. Border guards found and destroyed enemy positions in the Zaporizhia direction. Our infantry reported that the Russians were accumulating in this building in order to then advance to storm our positions. One kamikaze drone with a landmine closed this issue. Fighters from the Bulava Unmanned Systems Battalion of the 72nd Separate Mechanized Brigade, named after the Black Zaporozhians, successfully destroyed a ground-based Russian drone. Meanwhile, on the Eastern Front, angry beavers destroyed a Russian MTLB with a barbecue on your fat drone. The paratroopers of the 79th repulsed the night assault on their positions. Russian occupiers resort to testing new tactics. However, the aerial reconnaissance of the Maroon Berets from Mykolaiv detected the approach of the enemy column in time, and the enemy was hit by fire. As a result, the enemy lost 4 pieces of equipment and retreated. The brave soldiers of the Griffin 501 FPV unit are using their trusty drones to take down Russian cannon fodder and their shelters on the territory of the so-called Young PRC. HIMARS strikes have taken out the operators of the Zala UAV and the Lancet kamikaze drones in the Donetsk region. T-90 cooks off after taking a blast from a drone. Footage from a drone at the Sudza checkpoint in the Kursk region of Russia, showing the capture of Russian conscripts. FPV operators of the 3rd Assault Division blow up enemy weapons, shelters, and warehouses in the Kharkiv direction. No, it's not nuclear. They're just Special Operations Center warriors. SBU showed Russians. In the Pokrovsky direction, the invaders went to the fire station. Position on the BM 21 degrees, and they were immediately hit by an FPV drone. There was nothing left of the crew and the MLRS itself. "47th, Separate Mechanized Brigade has shown the combat operation of M1 Abrams tanks in the Avdiivka direction. Destruction of Russian armored vehicles on the Avdiivka direction. Seeing his friend blown up, the other Russian tank backed away and the room was blown up. The 13th Brigade of the National Guard of Ukraine, Khartia, halted a Russian column by destroying a tank, airborne forces, and equipment with anti-tank mines and drones. They even took out a Russian drone operator's command post. Tanks at a Russian armored column in the Kursk region of Russia are blown up. 110th Separate Mechanized Brigade, Pokrovsky direction. The full version of the epic shooting down of the Su-25 with the fall of the plane and the ejection of the pilot. Operators of Ukraine's 73rd Naval Special Forces Center launched a massive drone strike on Russian positions, vehicles, and shelters in Pidstepny on Kherson's occupied left bank. The Ukrainian Bradley was hit by 2 ATGMs and an indirect hit but continued to move. Thanks to remote mining with drones, the enemy infantry fighting vehicle was stopped in its tracks, and the kamikaze put an end to this story. It's so great to see how drones are making it possible to disrupt the plans of the Russian invaders. It's a really exciting time for technology, and it's amazing to think that we can now minimize human losses on the battlefield. Another Russian armored vehicle was destroyed in the Kursk region. What do you think about a few $100 FPV drones blowing up $1 million tanks?